Yo, guys, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Back in here, it's been a while. We're back in here for another Stay Black series, where, we have some very interesting topics to break down, and yeah, we are back at it again with another police shooting. So we're obviously going to talk mainly about the Wisconsin police shooting. And I also want to talk about Vernon Jones because we've talked about the whole thing about Black Republicans and so forth. And I saw the Vernon Jones video and his speech at the RNC, and I just need to get some of the guys' views on that. So I thought I don't think I've ever seen that before ever happen in the history. I also want to talk about homosexuality and transsexuality within the Black community and what the relationship is that with that issue. So let's just go first with the Wisconsin shooting. So what we know, so I saw the video, crazy video. So what we know now is, I think is it Joseph Blake? He at the moment is paralyzed from, I think it's from the torso down and neck down. They don't know whether it's permanent. They don't know whether it's permanent, but they say that there are 7 holes in his body. So they say that there are 7 or 8 holes in his body. So right now in Wisconsin, there are protests, people going crazy and stuff with what has happened. But let me just kick it off and just my raw emotions, and I'll kick it over to the guys, Because as I was just watching that, I was like, because again, my emotion is, what is wrong with these policemen? And I think we mentioned it before, and I think it's even Remy have mentioned it's where training. Why isn't there the kind of strict training to be a policeman as there is to be a Marine or there is to be a soldier? Because you can't just do a regular written test. Okay, you passed the medical thing. Okay, you can shoot a gun. Boom, send it out into the street. No, dealing with high pressure situations, dangerous situations, people of a different culture, people that act differently from you. Someone shouting isn't the same as them being angry, because the way that you interpret someone of a different culture shouting may be different from how they interpret that. So there's so many different things that go into being someone who does policing. And I think that people have a very generalized idea of, keep the peace if they, no. It's complex because life is complex. Things are complex. And I'm sure when we obviously get to Ren, he talks about his own army training and everything. Going into these situations is complex. It's not black and white. It's so difficult because you want to stay alive, you want to be safe, but you have to make high pressured, split-second decisions, and it has to be the right decision. In very, very dangerous scenarios that you're given. And as I'm looking at that video, there are 3,000 ways it could have gotten, because I now read stuff about how, he should have complied, he should have done this, he should have done this, no. There are 3,000 ways a policeman, who we assume has high-level training to deal with these kinds of scenarios, should be able to act. And we're not really given that. So that was my raw emotions there. So let me go first to Tony. So Tony G, raw general emotions on the Wisconsin incident. Tony G? Oh, yeah.
So I think, yes. So I think in general, I think first it points to the disconnect.
Hello? Tony, are you there? Oh, damn. Yeah, I think we may have lost you, bro.
I do.
Maybe come back, and I think we may have lost.
They police nowadays
Yo, Tony, I think your connection is a bit off. So maybe come out and come back in. Come out and come back in. Your connection is a bit off. So wait. So let me go to Ray now. So Ray, general thoughts on the scenario and what you saw there. Oh no, Ray, your voice. We can't hear you. Your voice is off. Your voice is off. Yeah, I think Ray just needs to fix in his voice.
How about this?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, bouncing from setup to setup, I guess.
Okay.
No, I was gonna say, so I actually live here, so this is my life. So no, there are no general thoughts, my man. So that's just not how it flows and goes. This is we're actually living it. Families here, friends here, so
What was
ain't,
here?
ain't no
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
tagline thing for me, man.
So I mean, actually, let me just because I know Ray is going to go into specifics on this, but I just want to just get other people's general thoughts so Ray can just give us a bit more background. So now this guy doesn't have a name. What's your name here? This guy here.
Sorry, yo, Double H, my bad, man.
Okay, it's you. Actually, Tony, is your mic working there? Tony G, Tony.
Yes, you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay, cool. Okay, Tony, go for it.
So basically, I was saying that I think that it shows a prime example of why there should be police who are from the community that they're actually serving, right? That way, there aren't these strangers that the police are dealing with and then don't really know like people's behaviors and things of that nature. Like you would understand their personalities and whatnot. Also, watching the video, I immediately wanted to see like what local politicians and stuff were saying in return to, or at least getting their reactions to it. So I did get a chance to see the governor of Wisconsin's response, and immediately he could not really speak to why there weren't body cams on the police. And I'm not really sure if that's a statewide issue versus like a county issue or however that may be. But I do think that that's something that we should certainly revisit and see, like in terms of like, if we can even vote on that sort of thing, or is it just more so like selecting a candidate or like a sheriff or something like that who would actually rule in favor of something like that. And I also think that this blatant disregard for Black lives, especially in Wisconsin, probably speaks to the unemployment rate, or even so maybe the imprisonment of Black bodies in Wisconsin. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but in like 2010, I think Wisconsin had some of the highest rates of unemployment for Black people in general, and it was almost at 53% between the ages of like 24 to like 64. So I'm pretty sure that white people who are in authoritative positions or in positions of authority probably look at Black lives as less than and probably think that they can get away with certain things like the shooting.
Okay. Hitman. Thoughts, just general thoughts on the Wisconsin incident. All right, there we go. Hitman.
I'll come back
Okay.
to you on it.
Okay, all right. Daniel. Just general thought.
The only thing I really know about Wisconsin is that Milwaukee is the most segregated city in America, so I've heard. So I'm not quite so I don't know exactly where this is in Wisconsin, so forgive my poor geography, but I'm not surprised that there's racist elements in places like Wisconsin. And I haven't seen the video. I make it a point that I'm not watching these videos anymore. So, you know, it was hard not to, because like the
You don't need to watch it, man. You
yeah,
know.
it was like the video. I didn't know what the video was. So like Have Hope knows Neeks posted a video and I clicked play, but I was like, oh, this is a shooting video, because it was like there was no description. It was just like, what the hell, what the fuck. And I kind of clued in like, oh, there's police. So I just clicked stop. So yeah, I'm not going to watch it. I don't know what happened exactly, but the police shooting somebody is just standard practice. So,
I mean, you see, and that's the thing that just angers me the most is as I'm looking at Twitter comments, Instagram comments, response, there's a whole thing of, oh, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, okay. Rinse, repeats. Let's not. I'm like,
I don't want to make it sound like I'm apathetic to
practice.
Yeah, Double H. I don't want to make it sound like I'm apathetic or I'm just like it
Oh, no, no, no,
doesn't
no, no,
anger
no,
me
no,
or
no, no,
annoy me.
no,
Like
no, 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 no,
it's
no, no,
fucking
no, no, no.
infuriating. But it's just I'm not going to watch it.
No, 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 no. That no. Wait, maybe I get exactly where you're coming from. It's nothing
Okay,
about you
fair.
being apathetic. I'm just saying I'm looking at it at a more macro level
Mm.
of that is how bad things have gotten. That there's a general consensus of like, aha, here we go again. You know,
Okay.
and another one where it shouldn't be another one. It should be like, okay, whoa, 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 what the hell is going on here? You know, because I think I do agree, Daniel, in your notion of like not wanting to see it, because again, when you see it can rally you up. But for me, again, each to their own. I just think that sometimes I need to see these things because I just, you sometimes just need to be forced because it's real. This happens. So okay,
The last one I
boom.
watched was South Carolina and it was Walter Scott. So
because you're in North Carolina, aren't you?
I'm in North Carolina, but this happened in South Carolina, I think. The cops pulled him over for a traffic stop. He ran away because I guess he had warrants or whatever, and the cop just didn't feel like running. That's my theory. So he just shot him in the back.
Oh yeah,
and there was a dude that was filming on the sidewalk, and he caught the cop trying to put something near the body to make the shoot look good. And I was just like, and I watched it kind of like on a loop, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like this isn't like nobody should have their death on camera for people to like. It's just an undignified thing to watch, in my opinion, because that shouldn't be happening to anybody. That it happens and that it's distributed for the world to be aware of is a positive in a sense, because this has always been happening. It's just that people have cell phones to where they can capture it. But yeah, I just don't feel like watching people die. Like it's not a movie. It's not something fun. And things that you just don't want in your spirit, just like watching somebody get shot. Luckily, I think this guy will survive. It's similar to another shooting that happened in.
At the moment, he's paralyzed.
He's paralyzed from the waist down. It's similar to another shooting. Well, maybe not similar because I didn't see it, but this is another one that I watched. I think again in South Carolina, maybe unsurprisingly, where the dude pulled into a gas station. The cop asked him for his ID. He went in his car to get the ID, and the cop started shooting him. He survived, but it was just like, bro, you wanted him to get his ID. He went in the car to get his ID. The cop was thinking, oh, it's a black dude. He's obviously going in the car to get a pistol. Bang, bang, bang. So yeah, once I've seen one, it's like, okay, just don't kind of get, because they're seared in my memory, all the ones that I've seen. So yeah, it's just not something I want to do.
Okay, so obviously, so Ray is obviously from the area and everything. So obviously, you can maybe give us a bit more insights into.
Are you born in Wisconsin, Ray?
Oh hell no.
Okay.
Nah, I'm not trying to be funny like that. But no, born in Chicago.
Okay.
So yeah, born in Chicago, military family. Then I was military, as you guys know. So my mail's been coming here since 2005. Since I got out of the Army 2010, I've been consistently here. So so for the geography there, we all know Chicago, we all know Milwaukee. From Chicago to Milwaukee is let's call it an hour and 40. Okay, hour and 40, 2-hour drive. But if you're just real bad traffic, Kenosha, Wisconsin is right in the middle. So where I live in Kenosha, where the shooting occurred, we're the first city across the state line, driving from Chicago. So that's where we're based out of. So
got you.
This town's been pretty. It's been a pretty important strategic place geographically for a long time. Not just for America, but for blacks even. This area. You guys. So what I heard about Milwaukee, just so we're on the same page, that is still true. Milwaukee is the most segregated city in America. But a lot of people also don't know Milwaukee is also the most diverse city in America. So at first that might sound like, how can you do both? But what you're saying is you have the most types of people who don't live next to each other. Mm-hmm. So simultaneously the most diverse and the most segregated. Regarding I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh,
I just said I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, so regarding the quick economics just for people, because I heard some things being said. So I'm in Kenosha County. So there's a city of Kenosha, and you have Kenosha County. Then above us is Racine County, then Milwaukee County. So just stack those 3 blocks: Kenosha, Racine, Milwaukee County. And Racine County, that was your 2010 stat one of you guys spit out. At the height of the crash, Racine County simultaneously had the highest unemployment rate in the country for a county, and had the highest CEO pay rate in the country, average pay rate for CEOs. So just to give you an idea of the disparity of this area. So just that's the quick fast and furious. You guys know Milwaukee. So Kenosha does not have that large of a minority population, but again, being between Chicago and Milwaukee, we're here. So the shooting itself happened about 5 p.m. on Sunday. And, you've seen online how fast videos and knowledge of a shooting move. We've all seen things go viral. This is the closest I've ever been to the epicenter of viral, if that makes sense. It's to where the first guy who wrote it, the first person who wrote me, so it happened at 5:10. So I must have got, this guy is on vacation. He's not even in town, white guy. And he just writes me, "Ray, did you hear a black guy got shot?" And he's one of those pseudo racist guys, So in my circles, one of my nicknames is called the Racist Whisperer. So I had this like a joke with the friends. We're like, Ray likes talking racist away from the world of racism. How some people rehabilitate puppies that have been beaten. I rehabilitate racist. So this guy's on that list. So, but I just wasn't feeling it. I was just tired. So he wrote that. So he's like, "Hey, did you hear about the black guy that got shot?" And I just wrote back, "Did you hear about the white guy caught with child porn?" I was like, "If we're gonna play that game, bro, let's just get it done." So he's like, I don't know. I'm just saying, I heard some, like, "Oh, well, did you hear about the local KKK movement?" And I just started going at him like that. So then I'd say about 3-4 minutes later, then my private messages just started blowing up. And to the earlier point, I don't watch the videos. I call it snuff tapes. I don't watch it. So, but I just kept getting this one so much, and everyone's saying it was local. And then my wife comes in and she's like, "Did you see it?" So I'm like, "You know what? Let me just see what's going on." And I watched it, and it's different when you recognize the street, because it's right down the street. You know what I'm saying? It's very different.
Wait. So how close are you from the incident? Like literally how close is your house to where the incident took place?
Well, I went down there for the first night of protest, so I think that Uber ride was 5 minutes.
Okay. Wow.
So that includes lights. So, yeah, it was that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could have walked. I'm just lazy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I probably waited longer for the Uber driver than I could have just walked.
Yeah.
Whatever. So yeah, it was just in real time, so many poor decisions being made. So that's really what happened first. So me and the local black community, we're all talking in our private threads, like looking at the video. And I'll tell you this, you're shocked the first time you see it. So, us black people, we're not a monolith. So we all looked at the same thing. You start hearing the different responses. And I'll be honest, my initial response was, "Why did he reach into the car?" But I was talking to a group of black military veterans and active police and sheriffs. So all men, in the life or have been in the life. And I said that, and they're like, "Ray, what the hell are you talking about?" Even one of the sheriffs, he's like, "Ray, what are you talking about?" And he kind of slapped me back to reality, because our culture tends to do that, to where you start doing it yourself. Even if you are black, you start asking the victim questions.
Yeah.
And they reminded me that I saw someone wrote 3 officers. It was actually 5. So you can't see them all in the video, but there was 5 officers. So they kind of reminded me like, Ray, we are all professionals or have been in the line of work. How the hell do 5 guys not control that situation? How is he walking around the way he's walking around? So we engaged on that, and so then after the shooting, the horrible attempt at cordoning off the area, they putting up yellow tape. I'm like, come on, bro. So police parking their cars along in a straight line instead of trying to control the situation. There were just so many places where things were done wrong. I mean, even when they declared the curfew, that was really the igniter. They basically declared a curfew they couldn't enforce. You don't got the juice. You don't got the power. So basically you declared this curfew, and yeah, first people was like not sure and all that, but once people realized they ain't got enough cops, that's when people started coming out. So then the cops, they have their scanners and everything. They started calling for local counties to bring police. And you were hearing that kind of talk. So you got people like me dressed like this out there saying, hey, I'm not trying to be no preacher telling people what to do, but it's kind of like, we don't benefit giving them an excuse to start hurting people. So you're trying to get people to calm down. But equally so, you got people trying to rile people up. So you got to think about it in the moment on the ground. You got people like me saying, hey, we can be angry, but we don't have to act off emotions. And then you literally have people saying, let's burn everything. So unfortunately, that secondary voice, it's louder, it's more passionate, it's more popular. And the authorities were not helping. And I will say this, the watching public did not help either. I don't know if you want to get into that later, but watching how a riot gets started. A lot of people think it starts with that Molotov cocktail. What this taught me was that riot started with the responses of law enforcement and with the general public who doesn't live here, who doesn't give a care, hyping people up online media, and that being leveraged to rile people up on the ground. So it was just, even though we see them every day, all day, it is different being there and watching it heat up, watching the black leaders trying to calm people and getting to that point where I'm sitting there telling one of the local black leaders, I'm like, it's time for you to go, bro. It's time for you to go because they're not listening no more. They got shotguns and rifles, and this is beyond our control. You've been trying to do your thing, but the police and the moderate white public has decided they want this to burn. They didn't say it, but their behavior, they basically said, we want you guys to riot. So that's when you're like trying to drag your friends out saying, bro, it's time to go. There's nothing we can do here.
Can I ask a question, Double H?
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Was there a discernment or like a distinguishable marker between people who are from Kenosha and people who perhaps came from outside, like outside agitators? Like, was there a sense of this person is not from here and they're just here to be angry? Or
absolutely. Okay. I mean, we didn't wear badges.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
You absolutely know who's not from around the area. So you have all these different levels. You had people from the area who are saying, listen, I live here. I don't want this to become rubble. Mm-hmm. I'm angry, but I don't want this to become rubble. You can see the people hiding inside their homes who are like, man, I just hope it chills out there. You had your spectators like getting out on the front porch, like, oh, it's about to go down. I got my cable cut off anyway, so let's go sit outside. Then you had a couple outsiders. Let's not call them all agitators. You had a lot of outsiders. So you had I was amazed how many young people were out there. Like, it's one thing seeing it on TV, but actually seeing how many young white people not from the area were there. Now, oddly enough, I think all those young white kids actually made it more difficult to get violent. Because there was people who came from out of town who were clearly looking. I mean, you could see the chatter. You're following the chatter online. You're watching threads where people are saying, yeah, we're loading up cars now. We'll be there in 15. Like, you're watching this chatter. You're watching the cars move by. They don't put license plates on. So when you see like all these cars moving through the area with no license plates on, you know that they're not there to speak a message of peace. Okay. But it was almost like a buffer with the younger kids. And it was actually mixed. I shouldn't say all white, but I was just surprised. This is a black neighborhood. So, I mean, shoot, man, I saw this one skinny little white kid. Well, you know that cloth like Jews wear, like the religious cloth they wear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching one of these white boys just walking down the middle of the street, one of those praying. I'm like, don't see that every day on 28th Ave. But
it's like a movie.
But that's me talking. I'm walking down the street dressed like this. I had a hat on, so cats are talking about let's burn this place down. Like, nice hat, brother. I'm like, thanks, man, thanks. So it was surreal. You had fake gangsters out there. So that same street I'm walking down, I was actually, because some of the other guys already been out there a long time. So I just had a simple mission. I was like, I grabbed a case of water and I was like, okay, I'm going to bring a case of water out there for the cats I can't get to leave. And for the ones I can get to leave, I'll pull them out. So I'm walking with this whole case of water, and cat just standing there, like just look like a thug movie extra talking about get the F out of this neighborhood, sell out. We don't need you around here. I'm like, bro, I'm here. I live here. What are you talking about? But, he's like, yeah, get the F out of here, like cussing at me and everything. And I'm just like, I just kept on walking. It's like, whatever, man. So,
wow.
But so you just had so much confusion. And then you had people that really impressed you with standing up, and then the level of cowardice. So a lot of people keep talking about the governor. Governor is 4 hours away from here, 3 hours away from here. What he gonna do? There's so many people before the governor that just punked out, both elected officials and members of the black community, where it was like, you just see people take advantage of a moment. And it was just like, man, this is so crazy. Like, if we survive this, man, I am coming for you later. Like it unfortunately, a lot of people use this moment for selfish reasons. They don't care about the shooting. They don't care about that man. They don't care about his kids. They use this situation. I'm going to say it here and right now. Even some of the buildings that caught fire, you're going to have to show me video evidence that some of them weren't set on fire by the owners.
Dog, I've been saying that.
I know the area. I've been here a long time. I know some of those buildings have been empty. They've been hard to manage. If they didn't set the fire, I'm going to keep it real. Some of those owners, they are saying, thank you. They're saying thank you. They're about to collect that insurance check and bounce.
I had the same feeling in St. Louis, or I guess Ferguson, same feeling in Minneapolis, where it's just like, especially in a pandemic where you might have a business that's struggling and there's nobody coming, and the only thing you might get is some insurance money or whatever the case. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if people are like, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to burn a building down and collect some cash. So
I'm not saying there's logic to rioting. I'm not saying that rioters write up business plans or nothing. But some buildings made sense. I wasn't out there, but it made, because it got rowdy later at night. Okay, much later. So after a certain point, we're like, listen, we all got wives, we got kids, we got families. These kids ain't trying to hear nobody no more. So
I want to jump in on this. So,
let's jump in. Just general thoughts on the thing.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because as far as the actual situation, I didn't really, like a lot of the guys said here, I haven't really, I was so out of this because I'm tired of watching videos of fucking people getting shot by the cops. Like, it's just fucked up, man. I mean, whether it's justified or unjustified, I don't fucking want to watch it anymore.
It was just very interesting seeing all the dynamics, man. Like, we're combat veterans, so we talk about the dynamics of a battlefield, right, Sam?
Yeah.
There is many more dynamics in a riot in the U.S. Even riots overseas, it's still us versus them, if we're keeping it real. Maybe it's us versus the bad ones and the ones who aren't as bad, But the dynamics on the ground, like, I watched a line of SWAT guys line up next to the truck, and then a line of white boys who are pro Black Lives Matter with their rifles standing face to face with the SWAT team, basically saying, do what you want to do. I really thought it was about to go OK Corral, bro. So I'm like, is this really happening right now? Like, I'm just a line of white boys with rifles. You know, they love dressing up, bro. They love dressing up. So they all dressed up and everything. But you got to give those fools heart. You got to give them credit for heart. They stood in a line and said, do something, to where the SWAT truck stopped. Which, again, that's what you expect, because you got those fools who aren't there talking about run them over, shoot them down, do whatever you got to do. That's tough. Do you know what that is? That reminds me of, you ever had that horrible girl you were dating that every time you went out, she needed you to fight for her honor? She would just like start stuff and be like, aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to do something? Those are those type of people where they're not out there. Their lives aren't on the line. And you know, you mentioned it earlier, man. What really showed out big is they don't got the training for this. They're not built for this. Even in that video, I keep telling people that wasn't 5 cops. That was 5 individuals who just happened to be wearing the same clothes.
Yeah. Just regular guys.
There was no coordination. And I'm not, and I know some people might get offended if I make this too logical, but there was no coordination of efforts. The policemen were So first off, if you look in the video, the 3, they all have their weapons out. Here's the thing about a gun. You can't wrestle with a gun in your hand, or maybe I should say you shouldn't wrestle with a gun in your hand. The moment you pull that gun out, you've made a decision. You can't back down. You can't say, hey, let's wrestle or get physical. And that's what you saw the cop doing. He couldn't get physical. He couldn't engage because he's holding a firearm and he's been trained to control that firearm. Here's the problem. None of his training was, here's how you one hand wrestle a dude while holding a weapon. So I'm not, if I had to put money on it, he did not mean to start engaging with that service weapon. I think it's just a matter of tussling back and forth. And you're not, I never seen that training. Have you, Sam? How to keep a gun pointed at somebody while wrestling them. I've done drills for how to keep your gun away from someone and how to maintain control of a sidearm, but I've never seen training on how to wrestle while holding a gun in your dominant hand.
I mean, if that's the case, I mean, if it's down to like, if they were tussling and he had a gun in his hand, that's the absolute not the standard, because what you normally you're supposed to do is, if somebody is usually if 2 or 3 people are on the guy, if one person's tussling, he doesn't even have a weapon on him. He usually gives his weapon to somebody else. He's tussling with the guy, and then like
I'm surprised, Sam. I'm surprised that the officers didn't shoot each other. That's how uncoordinated it was.
No. They looked completely stupid. They looked awkward. They just looked like, wait a minute, because again, it's weird because we talked about this like a weeks ago, like, you know, military and policemen. Like when you see a regiment move, it's like a team. It's like how ants move. It's like, okay, boom. When you see these police guys go, as you say, it's just a bunch of guys playing dress up. There isn't like, okay, decision, you go here. It does not, as you said, keyword coordination.
And let me clarify. I'm not saying about anything about any of the officers as individuals. What I saw was, this is what happens when you give people guns with little training. And I think someone said it earlier. I normally don't try to hit this race card, but you know what? I think it's a good card to play. Stop sending scared white boys into black sides of town. If you are scared, you should not be holding a gun. I'm not saying you're less of a man if you're scared of people that don't look like you. Fine. You're scared. New things scare you. That's not the life for you. And that's what I saw there. And it's this narrative of, because you're scared, your actions are justified. Don't do gun work. And that's what I keep saying. America needs more dentists. Become a dentist. Get out of the business of gun work. That was, you sent scared people into a neighborhood, because that's what they're going to say, feared for my life, whatever. You know what? Be afeared your whole life as a dentist. That's what we got to start demanding.
Okay, so Tony Evers, he is the state governor of Wisconsin. He said he has promised to move forward with reforms to curb law enforcement's misconduct, and apparently they're going to meet on the 31st of August in a special session to consider a set of 9 police reform bills, which were floated more than 2 months ago. So I think, we look at solutions. How do we not get here? So, and I think we already touched on it already before, which is with regards to training. So my thing is, you're looking at these protests and sort of 100% protest, let people know. But I think I'm looking for things to be constructive. You have to move forward constructively, which is why people are talking about this whole defunding the police and so forth. So the key thing is training and getting better policemen on the streets, and specifically getting the right kind of policemen in particular neighborhoods. Because I think what is being missed is there are people who don't understand how to interact with certain individuals of that certain place. And that is just something that just goes amiss. They just say, no, as long as you're a policeman, you can police anyway. No. There is more to policing than just you can shoot a gun and the basics with how to deal with a situation. It's about dealing with people. It's about man management. It's about studying and reading. It's about reading the situation. So
you got to be pep. You got to be pep.
So let me come to Sam with this. So Sam, do you believe that America can actually see worldwide proper police reform where en masse there is a higher level of policemen on the streets, or is it just hot air, all talk, and you're not really going to be seeing police unions actually demand stricter training and greater excellence of policemen? Sam?
Because the U.S., the states and cities are different, I think federally we'll see stricter policies and maybe things like cameras. I would say there will be more visibility and more transparency, but I'm not really optimistic on the more training, because a lot of places are going into concepts of both, like, not only adjusting fund, not only like doing things like defunding, and even places where they don't defund, where they increase the funds, they're not going to spend it on extra training. They're going to spend the money on just making the police more militarized. That's all they're going to do. It's just going to be because especially if like a lot of these conservative like representatives get in the power, that's all they want, law and order. They don't care how. They don't care who they get it with. They just want to get the crime rates down. They just want to suppress people. And what that's going to lead to is just a cycle of what we're seeing. It's going to be another protest, another riot, another fucking thing, rinse and repeat.
Wow. Okay. Tony, what about you? So what do you think? Do you think that how do we solve this police issue? Do you really think that there will actually be police reform on a grand scale so that there are better policemen on the streets who are far better trained?
So I do think that it's a mixture of training, but also, again, familiarity. I think that if the police are of the community and they know the people, then they would not approach them from a fear tactic. They would not approach it as if like they're fighting in a war with, everybody's the enemy kind of viewpoint. And I also think that at some point we have to really filter out with these police unions, some of these protections that they're allowed when they clearly cannot do their job. I know that in my position, if I do something or give money to the wrong person, I'm held liable, and that's money out of my check, and I could even go to jail. And I think that police should be held accountable to that same standard because of the responsibility that they have. We should be able to respect them, and because of the high regard that they receive because of their badges and whatnot, we should expect them to take their training seriously, and if they don't know something, they should be proactive in doing so. And if they can't, then there should be penalties.
All right. Daniel.
I think the training idea is cool or whatnot, but I suspect it's all down to the individual. You can give somebody great training. It doesn't necessarily mean they implement it, because they might simply not be capable of it. So I think about sports, for instance. If you can practice all you want, and you can even practice the right way, but once you get into the heat of a game, you probably fall back into traits or just your natural inclination of doing things. So let's say you give those 5 policemen the best training for as many hours as you want to give them. When they're in the heat of the moment, they still might revert back to their just initial mode. So it's not just simply a matter of training. It's a matter of the person you're training as well. And I'm not a psychologist. I've never trained a police. I've never shot a gun in my life, maybe once, like with my granddad or whatever. So I don't know what it's like, so you could ask, obviously, the military dudes, maybe like you can train somebody to be better with a gun, but there just has to be a better vetting process of just who you pick to be a police officer. You shouldn't be able to do 6 weeks or 6 months of training and just send you out into the street with a firearm. It just it's almost like you have to do more training to get a driver's license or something. I'm not sure exactly how police work, but yeah, training is great, but who you're training is more important.
Ray?
We've been talking a lot about the police. We kind of talked on Evers. Again, being here on the ground, there's a group that I realized that I never talked about. I never heard others talk about. And that's let's call it the moderate white public. I saw them egging on racism. So just think about it. You have all these angry black people on the ground, okay? Even though I said it was very mixed, but you have people who live there that are angry. They're black. They live there. What you saw happening in real time is white folks from not in the area, or just detached folks. So maybe it's not all white, but whatever makes you feel better for this story. They were saying things online that the black agitators would then screenshot and send out to their community, basically saying, "See, this is what they think of you. You might as well burn it all down. You haven't even done anything yet. And they're calling you animals just for being out here." So you see where I'm going with this? Before the fire started, before the shooting started, you had people like, we had a local official. He's a fireman. He writes publicly, let's wait till all the facts come out. He puts this out on Facebook. Let's wait until all the facts come out, or Kenosha PD or Kenosha's finest will take care of you. Keep in mind, the police just shot a man, and you have an elected official telling the public, let's wait for all the facts come out, or Kenosha PD is going to handle you too. So again, we're out there. So I write directly on his page, like, do you think you're helping? Like, I asked him, like, I put it on his page. Like, are you that gangster? Do you think, because he's trying to say, I'm just trying to keep the peace. I'm like, really, bro? Like, do you think that there is some guys loading up crates of Molotov cocktails, like Black Panthers, communists, Antifa, whatever you want to call them, like just stacking magazines, like, we're going to do this shit tonight. And then they saw your Facebook page and they're like, oh, Milk Toast told us to stand down. All right, boys, Milk Toast told us to stand down. And I asked him, like, who do you know that you think was about to do something that now isn't, because you got that kind of weight in the streets? And I continued by saying, people like you are inciting the riots. You weren't saying this to keep the peace. You were saying this as a dog whistle to your white community of, hey, let's get our white community pumped up. Let's talk about, hey, Kenosha's finest, go get them. That's what you started saying. Let's put the dogs on them. We need to give the police permission to shoot on sight. You're seeing this. And this was being taken and fed to the crowd. Like, look, they're talking about killing you. They're talking about shooting you. Like, even right now, how you guys are speaking, if you probably didn't see me looking down, that's what just happened. There's a group called, what do they call themselves here? So the Observers. So there's a local group here. They're calling themselves the Observers. And their mission tonight, this is all civilians, their mission, armed citizens to protect our lives and property.
Damn.
I'm going to talk to you real quick, another little military thing. One thing, infantry officer basic is long and boring. But one of the best things they teach you is a mission can only have one task and one purpose. So when you give somebody two tasks, so the task is protect, right? But protect what? You can't say lives and property, because the way life works, it's going to make you have to choose. So think about what I'm saying here. Life's going to make, if you say and, life is going to make you choose. So I look through all the people that are on this, that are liking it and appreciating it. And I'm looking at the people that are doing most of the chattering. These are, some of them I recognize, some of your normal pseudo racist, I'm all for justice, but don't take down a Confederate statue. Those types. All white though. All white. All talking about going out to an area they don't personally live. Not everyone, because it says 1,000 people are going, but I'm just talking about the ones I can see, normally. Talking about, we're going to go out to this other area we don't live in, and we're going to protect lives and property. If you had to put money on which one they'd choose, if they're put into a situation where they have to choose, which one do you think they're going to choose? That black life or that brick building? So that's what I was just doing just now, to where it's like, I want to stay in my house and be easy tonight. But guess what I got to do now? I got to now go load up all the veterans that think like me, and we got to go observe the observers. That's what we have to do.
Okay,
otherwise, you're going to have people coming in to go play hunt. And this is how crazy things get. This is unnecessary. This ain't helping nothing. They're riling up on here talking about, well, since the National Guard and the Democratic mayor aren't going to do nothing, we're going to take
matters into our own hands as untrained, regular people.
So I'm living it. Do you think I feel better seeing a whole bunch of pasty white kids talking about they're going to come in here and defend lives and buildings? Do you think I feel better? Absolutely not. And that's the problem right now. They don't care about it's about an idea. And it's like, what are you going to do? You sit inside, hide your house, or you do what you was trained to do. So this is the second time this group has popped up. I did this once before where they did this. They create an event. I create a counter event where I load up all the military veterans and minorities who are armed like me. And they started contacting me directly saying, why are you making your group? I'm like, why are you making your group? They're like, you shouldn't have an issue. They're like, they go, why are you shouldn't have an issue with law-abiding, gun-carrying citizens. I was like, you shouldn't either. We're just like,
so why should you have any issues with us making our group as well?
But that shows the falseness of it. Well, those are the ones saying like we're pro gun rights for minorities, but every time I make a counter example, they say, oh, well, what is your agenda? I go, that sounds like a background check, bro. What's your agenda?
Let's take some questions there. So, Real says, question 3: do you think there should be a higher barrier of entry to police for returning military personnel?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've talked about that locally. I actually helped write up a proposal for the local police, and in the first 4 parts are, we make it catchy, but double police salary, double police training budget. Those are first 2. But number 3, make it twice as hard to become an officer, and make it twice as hard to stay an officer. So the barrier to get in needs to be higher, and the barrier to stay should be higher. I was able to pass the barrier to get a Ranger tab. I'll tell you this right now. I don't think I could pass day 1 of Ranger school in the shape that I'm in. So make it a high barrier to get in and a high barrier to stay. Absolutely. Now, on top of those barriers, we should be more.
Real quick, just on a point, because again, I'll let you go. You know how in movies they always tell jokes about American policemen and donuts, and how it's really hard for them to walk. How is that even a joke that policemen are out of shape and have bad health? You know, it's
I
like
can't speak on that. And honestly, for every fat, I mean, for real, for every fat cop I know 25, 30 fit cops. Just me saying. I think I think there's a kernel of truth to it. The same way there's a kernel of truth to us liking chicken, but you know what I'm saying. I would just say, keeping it real, we need to, you know, like when people like me say defund the police, I'm really saying diversify your investment in police. Not all police situations need a gun. So that's an example. Not all police need a gun. Some police I want to have guns. You know, cats on vice, you know, hunting wolves, give them guns. But answering a domestic disturbance call like this was, why did 5 of you have weapons? Why didn't 3 of you engage with no weapons at all? And maybe one of you stayed in the car with the shotgun in case things got squirrely. You know what I'm saying? There is ways to do this to where things you don't have to de-escalate. It just makes it harder to escalate, because that's what happened. They escalated. And let's keep it real. If there was a gun in the car, we would have heard it by now, because everyone keeps saying, let's wait for all the facts. I'm like, come on, bro, shut up. If there was a gun in that car, they would have told us by now. There's no reason to withhold that.
So Mo says, who are these observers and what are their motives?
That's a good question. I can only speak. I can only speak. I can only speak on Ray Roberts
or something. Or
it's just my Negro spidey sense. It could be wrong, you know. But when I see a whole bunch of white boys talking about coming into town to defend lives and property, what I heard is we coming to shoot some black folks, and we're going to work very hard to make it look legit. That's what I heard. Now you might say, Ray, you on that PTSD? Chill out, calm down. Fine, whatever. I got my rating, so you might be right.
He's just calling it for what it is.
But for me, that's what I see. I've been dreaming about an opportunity to shoot a black dude, and this sounds like this is my opportunity. You know, I want to pull a trigger, kill a nigger, be a hero. That's what I see this as. I was defending that building. That's why I shot that guy.
And this to say, even though I think this is something that we can all answer, man. Even though the awareness is good, could it be bad for a black kid growing up in this unrest? Everything is negative. Could they constantly feel like a victim? I think, look, this is the reality is the reality, because I mean, because again, as I just look at these images of black guy getting shot by crappy, untrained police, protests, people getting mishandled, seeing one image of a policeman just completely mishandling this black teenage girl. Those images given to you time and time again, which is why people are now coming to terms right now with the seriousness of mental illness. You know, because before it was like, wait, oh man, what do you mean by mental illness, man? That's just get over it, man, grow up, you know. But now people are saying, no, mental illness is actually a real thing. So if you're living in constant negativity and images of negativity and everything, it will mess up with your psyche. So either you will know it consciously or you will know it subconsciously. And if you have it subconsciously, you're not even going to be aware of the psychological sickness they have. So for sure. Tony, you want to speak on this?
I would just say that I think there's a very curious statement to say growing up in this unrest as if this wasn't a continuation of American history in general. I think if it was not the police, it was just regular white citizens doing the same exact thing. So I think the alternative is just to ignore the issue and just not even play victim, but just be a victim, but a silent victim. So I don't think that we should ever stop talking about it or ever stop acknowledging it until it actually changes.
Okay. Sam?
I do think that this is going to have a significant effect on our community for the better or the worse. I mean, I think what is going to happen is that you're going to notice more people getting into a mode. Is for the better. I think there's going to be a bit more. I can see a bit more unity going on. I can see a bit more support going on from people who actually are allies. And I could also see something else, which some people may not see as positive, but people pushing further to make sure that if anything happens, that if anything happens, that they won't let it happen again, because it'll be more of a never again. But that also can come to the worst. I mean, that means more shit, more things like more things like riots will happen if like anything happens. The other one too is also like, I think gun ownership in the Black community is going to increase, which I've been saying for the longest. I mean, there's been limitations, but there's not. But it's not as bad as it was before. Now you can, it's pretty much as long as you're not a felon, you can get a gun in most places.
All right, Daniel.
Can you put the question back up? Cool. That the act of becoming aware, especially in this context, in the American context, maybe even British, but the act of becoming aware for a Black kid in America, another word for awareness could be consciousness. The act of becoming conscious is understanding your victimhood, in a sense. They say ignorance is bliss. If you're not paying attention to your surroundings, you might not even think, oh, like the oppression, it's not that bad. It was really bad in the 60s, but then King came and now we're all equal. But once you start to become aware, I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, maybe victim. I know people going, oh, you become a victim, you become a victim. But if you're being victimized, then what are you? So the only way that you can actually deal with the problem is if you address it. But to address it, you have to become aware of it. So for a Black kid growing up in unrest, I don't know when, as I think someone said before, I don't know if there's been a Black kid in the United States that's ever not grown up in unrest, because that's all this place has ever given Black people. I don't know if there's a problem to understand your victimhood if in that you don't accept it and you work it towards a system, a fair system that can eradicate that victimhood.
But the problem is, though, that there's a lot of victimhood that, I'm just going to just straight up say it. There's a lot of victimhood where it makes it that some people feel like they can't do a goddamn thing. Some people feel they can't get a gun, even though they can legally get a gun. Some people feel like they can't do a job, even though they can do that job and there's nothing holding them back. The thing about it is that there has to be a difference between, is that some of the people that are falling into that trap need to realize the difference between real victimhood and the victimhood that's actually and what may be exaggerated.
The degree to which you're being held back may vary, but there's no question that indeed you are being held back.
But then again, I'm going to jump in again there, because the other thing you got to talk about is that people feel that they have the same level of victimhood, which that's a problem. If somebody who has power, because there are Black people here who actually do have legitimate levels of power, even though they are limited by the system that we're in. The deal with that is that pretty much it goes into the basic concept of what you can control, what you can't control, and making the most of that. Now, the people who have more ability to control have to use their spheres of influence in order to help. I mean, this is where the whole impulse of where let's go.
Hey, Mini Ray, what up? Say hello to the world, Mini Ray.
I was trying to get him out of here.
Don't look, man. Come on, man. Nah,
he wants to play piano. You saw that? He's trying to play piano.
HH kids.
Mini Ray. Come on, join in the fun.
Yeah, he was about to start playing the piano. I don't know if he got those kind of skills yet. He just go up there and just start beating on the keys, doing his little tutti frutti.
Mini Ray. Hello. All right, it's good. Sorry. Sam, continue.
But yeah, going back to that, it's spheres of control, because the thing about it is that the world is still turning, the clock is still moving, and I mean, we only have a limited amount of time in this world, so we can't. So while we do have to fight for justice every day, and we have that going on, we can't feel so much of a victim that we feel like we can't do anything. That's really what comes down to.
Take what opportunities because you can be aware that you are in a worse place and you can be a victim, but you can't put it to a degree. Once chances arise, you've got to do what you can. There's some people where, no, generally, you're screwed. And you can try anything you want, you are screwed. But there are other people where, I know that it's a lot harder for you, but it is what it is. Once those opportunities arise, you just have to take them.
Have hope. Okay, but let's say you have a contract. Let's say like you're a boxer, right? And you have a contract with Don King, and he's shafting you, right? But you're still richer than like most people. You're still getting good checks. You're getting your 100 grand from like the million that you're supposed to get, and you have no idea that Don King has stolen like $500,000 from you, and you're just kind of enjoying the 100K that you got from your contract. You're a victim. Now, when somebody makes you aware, like, hey, yo, Don King is shafting you, like, you need your other $500,000.
I'm gonna jump in on that too.
Like, can I land though?
Wait. Let's Daniel land.
I'm just saying, like,
can I finish?
Yeah, it's just I even forgot where I was going with my metaphor. But the point is that if you're made aware that something wrong is being done to you, you can choose to accept, and I agree that it would be wrong if once you hear that you're being taken advantage of by a promoter, it's okay, it's just Don being done. Or I'm just happy being in the position I'm in. I can get how somebody might be in that position, and I might say, well, you're being victimed twice in that sense, because if you know you're being taken advantage of and you don't do anything, then that's like a second error almost. But for me to tell you that this is a problem and you recognize your victimhood, I can never see that as an issue.
But here's the thing. I'm gonna just straight up say for what it is. When you say you're a victim, you're basically saying you're a bitch.
Whoa.
No, for real.
No. Because
let me continue.
I'll let you land. Go ahead.
The thing about it though is that when you're basically saying you're a victim, you're basically saying that you're a bitch. Now, there's a difference, like with the example of Don King, and with the example, and you can bring up the example of a lot of other things like Black YouTubers, Black influencers, Black celebrities, so on, and things that actually, and like you said, things at the upper echelon and ceiling of areas where things need to get fixed. Now, the deal with that is that you have a platform, so you can use that platform and basically call people out. Basically say, hey, this guy's fucking me over, that guy's fucking me over. Now, there's certain levels that you can't go beyond. Like, good example of that would be Nick Cannon. Even though I think some of the stuff he said was kind of out of line, but other things he did say did have some value to it. But the big thing is knowing what you can control, what you can fix, getting people to get, and if there's things that you can't fix, getting people together and calling it out. And you have to have allies with that, and that tends to be allies of the people that are privileged.
Okay, but what happens is, I think, and just and I know you want to move on, Double H, but I know that the way that thing was framed, whenever somebody puts the word victim, there's always going to be somebody that goes in on, to be a victim mentality, victimhood, victim this. For me, when I just see victim, I just hear wronged. So if you're being wronged and I make you aware that you've been wronged, then that's never a negative, because I just words matter.
I think basically you are both right. You're actually both right.
It's just I'm right. So
because if someone gets raped, you're a victim because you're a victim of a rape. But if you live your life continuously as a victim, I can see where Sam is coming from. So you can view it in both ways, where you have been wronged because you're a victim. Literally, logically, you've been wronged. But at the same time, if you live your life every day, psychologically, mentally, consciously as a victim, you will never move forward. And you will always be like, but I was a victim, but I was this, because but you keep on coming up with excuses why you can't do this, when I'm giving you opportunities. When you miss this opportunity, you say, well, because I'm a victim. I'm like,
And
how many times do you use that as an excuse when I keep on giving you this chance? But I say, well, I was a victim, which is why I couldn't. So, but let's bring Ray into it. So, Ray, thoughts on what has been said here?
Yeah, I think that was a little hard language there, saying what a victim is. You see, you control what you do. You control your actions. You don't control everything that happens to you. So I don't think that's a sign of weakness, me saying I got shot. Okay. If I'm walking down the street and a guy just shoots me in the back, I don't think I have debased myself for describing what happened.
I think that's correct. I think that assumption is correct. Now,
So
go ahead.
So just to clarify, because I think I understand what you were trying to say, Sam, but I don't think it came out the way you wanted it to. No matter what happens, you're always responsible for what you do. I think that's what you were trying to say. So
Yeah.
if you come up in a bad way and for that reason you say, and that's why I never signed up for school. No, that's what you're talking about. You could have signed up. They could have turned you down every year, but you still decide whether you sign up or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. So we have to be very careful of, let's talk about Jacob. Jacob is 100% responsible for opening that car door. I'm just follow my words. Don't read into it. He is 100% responsible for opening that car door and putting his body inside. That police officer is 100% responsible for pulling that trigger. We need to have more adult conversations with that level of absolute responsibility for what you do. None of this, he made the cop do it. Nah, he did not make the cop do anything. Cop's responsible for his actions. At the same time, yeah, don't be sitting here saying like, well, had the, maybe he was just confused. Nah, bro, he put his head in that car door.
Just wait, quickly. Expand on that point. You say he's responsible for opening the car door. Like, what do you mean?
What do I mean? That's
in
his
relation
arm. That's his arm. Nobody was controlling his arm. He reached, he opened. That is 100% him. Now, if someone gets caught up in their feelings and they think they heard me say he deserved to get shot, that's a personal issue.
Mm-hmm.
Work on your listening comprehension. All I said was he's responsible for opening the car door. But I also said the police
and the consequences of that responsibility. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
I think, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, so there's a culmination of signals and, real life. Yes, that they'll say it's me. I know sitting here now that no matter that technically that police officer is responsible for his own actions. Having said that, I know most people don't hold themselves to that level of accountability. So unfortunately, I live in a world where the level of accountability is much lower. For that reason, I have to take additional precautions because I move in a world where that level of accountability is not the norm and it's not accepted or required. And that's what we see happening with these cops. That level of accountability is not being demanded. We are not saying no matter what happens, every bullet that comes out of your firearm is you. We had that in the Army. I saw great guys get kicked out of programs because of having a misfire during training. One accident. Even the people who kicked them out, like, man, we're sorry, man, you're great, but the rules are the rules. You are always responsible. And their careers done, over for a misfire. And that's a misfire at a training house.
Okay, so let's move on. And this is a really interesting topic, and I'm sure, Daniel, you will find this interesting because this is also in conjunction with a tweet I saw you put out. Now, what I saw here, I need to ask you guys this because this might be one of the most shocking things I think I've ever seen. So I'm sure all of you guys know who this is.
I have no idea who that is.
So actually, I don't. Was he a Republican?
So this is Vernon. What did you say? Public enemy? What?
No, I wasn't trying to be funny, but I guess it is funny, huh? No, I said I don't recognize him, but I see him dressed like a politician. He's got flags behind him. So I asked you, since I don't know him, is he a Republican?
Good. So let me tell you, okay, background. So he's Vernon Jones. I believe he's a Democrat from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, which is actually where my uncle lives, is based.
Let me Google.
And he was at the Republican National Convention.
You said Vernon Jordan is his name?
Yeah.
Or
So I just sold him up, bro. It says he spoke at the RNC.
Yes.
Vernon
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. Vernon Jones.
Jones.
And
not
his
Jordan.
quote is Democrats won't let black people leave their mental plantation. I called this, bro. That's why I don't know this fool.
So basically, it is because this sends shockwaves, because basically, like, what was trending on Twitter was Uncle Tom was trending. I was like, that's Uncle Tom trending.
That's why that. See, I didn't click on it, but because I saw the trend, that's why I put those tweets.
So basically, no, because I clicked there because let me just get this. So basically, I clicked on Uncle Tom and I saw him trend. I said, "Oh, what the hell?" So I watched the video and I was like, "Has this ever happened before?" First off, has a Democrat ever spoken at an RNC? First thing. Second thing, has anyone said this kind of thing plainly on such a massive platform? Secondly, and the way that a Democrat called out the official Democratic nominee, I thought was wild. But this will now take us to a much larger point, because first of all, which is why I want to bring in Daniel, because Daniel posted something on Twitter where he said all these black Republicans saying that, you know, the Democrats is a slave plantation, they just hold black people to that. But what solutions do you have? Do you actually have any solutions? Because all you're saying are Democrats just take the black votes for granted and they just keep people in this mental slave bubble. Because I think why this is interesting, why I wanted to talk to you guys about it, is that this is very much about discussing about black people as a monolith, free thinkers. But this is so complex because on one hand, it's like anybody can think how they want to think, and you shouldn't treat people as a monolith. On the other hand is Trump, and what I know Trump is, and how I know Trump can use people for his own gain. So with this, I don't even know how to view this, because I am literally in two minds. Because on one mind is, bro, you can't just assume Biden is the savior of blacks because he's a Democrat and he's been doing stuff for all these kinds of years. Like, that's dumb. What has he actually done? But on the other hand is, it's pretty wild. You could be good here saying, because he literally said Trump is the answer for America, and I am backing Trump. So let me come first to Tony with this. So Tony G.
I think before we get into it, you should answer Salal's question about what is an Uncle Tom. I think that would be good context before you go further on this.
Wait, sorry, say again.
I'm just reading through the comments. Someone asked what's an Uncle Tom. So I think because of the topic you're engaging, you should let somebody handle that.
Daniel, I think you'll be the best to handle that quickly, because Daniel is like our English major first star savant kind of dude. So I'll say he's the most well-read.
I thought you were going to say he specialized in calling out Uncle Toms or something.
Uncle Tom refers to a book written by Harriet Beecher Stowe in the 19th century called Uncle Tom's Cabin. It was an anti-slavery book. Tom was a character. Actually, he was a good character in the book, all things told. Uncle Tom's Cabin, quick fact, it was the highest selling book in the 19th century that wasn't the Bible.
Wow.
And I think Abraham Lincoln even told Harriet Beecher Stowe that her book spurred on the Civil War because it was so monumental in terms of the abolitionist movement. Uncle Tom, because of the subject of Uncle Tom, what's in it, the book title Uncle Tom has become used as a way to say just a black person who's against his people, basically. But it's a misnomer, because in the book, Uncle Tom wasn't the would-be coon as we would use it. The actual Uncle Tom was called Sambo. So if you've heard Sambo, that's generally what people mean by an Uncle Tom, but Uncle Tom has been used as just kind of shorthand for a coon. But it's based on that book, which was written by a white woman. So yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
so in today's context, and Uncle Tom is just a black person who sides with conservative type of views, or he's just out of alignment with the general thinking of black people as a whole.
Okay, so let me confess to Tony with this. So Tony, how do you view a black Democrat speaking at the RNC and openly actually denouncing his own party's nominee and fully endorsing an opposing party's nominee, i.e. Trump?
So my first thought is that it's a very bold move.
Very bold.
We're giving points for style.
Sorry, before you finish, you should watch this video. Even before he said that, I know it's even says I know this is weird because guys are like, what the bloody heck is going on? Sorry, go on, Karen.
So I think that it's a very bold move. I don't think that it's a far stretch to say that there are some Democratic politicians that have taken the black vote for granted. I think that it is a very important discussion that should be had, but not necessarily in the context of whether we should vote for Trump or not. I'm not really sure if that was the right platform, but I do think that he clearly would be heard by a bunch of people. But again, I think that in general, I don't necessarily believe that Trump is exactly the answer, but I don't believe that Biden is the answer either. I think that, again, contextualizing it, people who have money probably see Trump as a benefactor to have in their corner. So I'm pretty sure he's speaking on behalf of those who may be black and may be well off versus, speaking on behalf of the collective that is black people in America.
All right. Sam?
This guy is a clown, just like all the Democrat and Republican clowns I'm seeing like all over this. And I'm calling out everybody because they're all fucking clowns. Like this the current like political climate is just full of them, full of politicians that are full of all types of bullshit. Republicans, Democrats, independents, Green Party, fucking. We just need to just like reset everything. I'm sounding. Politics are fucked up right now.
Wow. Daniel?
What's the question?
So
Uncle Tom's the answer.
No. Well, so what are your thoughts on black Democrats coming onto the RNC platform, publicly denouncing its party's nominee?
I had to do a quick Google because I haven't been paying too much attention with the conventions, but this is clearly a response to John Kasich, who was the Republican governor of Ohio, who last week he featured a speech against Trump in the Democratic National Convention. So this is probably like they're just, Bishop to F6 or whatever it is. Like that's just their move. So I
think they tried to play their Herman Cain piece, but
I think also when you think about it too, it's also a response not just to John Kasich, but there's also does anybody here know the Lincoln Foundation?
Yeah, the Crypt Keeper woman who works for Trump, her husband runs it.
It's not only
what's her name? Tail. Good evening. It's Kellyanne Conway. That's her name. Yeah.
Oh God.
And her
I grew up with her running that show, Tales from the Crypt. I loved her in that show, bro.
And her daughter, who basically wants to like emancipate, and basically is
that's a wild story.
She's on the Black Lives Matter train now too. It's crazy because like they got a conservative mom, they got a liberal husband, and they got the ultra liberal kid. And
he's actually a conservative. He's just a conservative against Trump, bro. He's actually a conservative.
But the kid's a super liberal though.
Oh yeah. But that's how it is, man. If you spend your whole life talking about things you hate and you fear, your kids pay you back. So honestly, bro, we know what's going to happen. She's going to be in rap videos and everything. That's where she's going to be living.
She's going to be with a black dude too.
Oh, I thought I was saying it softer. That's what I meant.
Anyway, about black, black Republicans annoy me. That's just my general feeling about things, because like on one hand they recognize the issues that plague the Democratic Party in terms of they're not really for black people either, but black Republicans' solution is let's jump from one racist to another.
But black liberals, I'm gonna just straight up call out black liberals. Black liberals, you know, when I was talking about like the whole like people saying that they're a bitch, like far leftist fucking black liberals are bitches. Straight up, far left are a bunch of bitches.
Okay.
I mean, but because again, which is why like I wanted to bring this up, because it is the points that I find that was interesting from Daniel when you put out that tweet, which is that okay, like let's not talk about the left. So the focus now is on blacks, Republicans, and so forth, because people who are now responding to this, specifically black Republicans, be like, oh yeah. But as Daniel said, okay, what is your solution? Because all I'm hearing is, oh, and the left is this, the left is okay. So what are you doing as a Republican that can help black people, specifically poor black people? So sorry, back to Daniel.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the idea that, you know, there's a famous thing, and I've seen even like more conservative right wing black people use, like, there's a famous Malcolm X clip where he's on like I think it's Canadian TV, so it might be CBC, and he's just explaining the kind of, I don't know if it's a paradox, but like the rock and the hard place of the white liberal and the white racist, and he calls the white liberal a fox. So they're like conniving, but they're still going to eat you. And then he calls the white racist more, and I think he's more talking about people from the South, but maybe not necessarily. They're the wolves, right? So and this clip is always cut off before he gets to the wolf part, but it goes in and he just starts talking about the white liberal, and he talks about the white liberal as a fox. But for me, the Malcolm's point was never that, okay, you leave the liberal white fox and to go jump with the wolf. Like, that was never the plan. The plan is you leave both the fox and the wolf alone and you do for self. That was the whole platform of the Nation of Islam. Like,
exactly.
So it's all about building for yourself. Like, leave the fox, leave the wolf, do for you. But it seems like black Republicans are like, yeah, we recognize the fox, but now we're going to jump in bed with the wolf. I'm like, whoa. Like, what are you?
Why does it have to be two options?
The other thing, I was going to say that, like,
wait. Sorry, back to Daniel.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Sam.
I was going to jump in and say, like, that's exactly what the Republicans are trying to use. They've used these tactics all the time. You know, like how, because I've been noticing like a lot of like people on the right saying stuff like the RNC, like the DNC, 2020 DNC was basically the only arguments they were using was, oh, that like you should vote for us or vote for Biden because you're not voting for Trump. The RNC, the only arguments they have for black people is to vote for us because your neighborhoods are messed up. We're gonna do this, which they really aren't going to do. And that that you're on the plant, and to leave the plantation of to leave the plantation, which makes no fucking sense to me, because just like what Dan is saying, like, it's not. I mean, really, you're jumping from one plantation to a fucking other. The only difference is that this one's not going to be as nice. In addition to that, I mean, it's also some of the talking points they use. They use things like, they talk about Martin Luther King, saying that he was a Republican, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, saying that they've done all these things, like they've ended racism, blah, 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 blah. They use all this shit let's just straight up say it's fucking bullshit. And they try to like basically use revisionist history in order to make them sound like they're the good guys when neither party is. Both parties are complicit in in the subjugation of black people in America.
All right, let's Corey, is your mic working there, Corey? Corey. Okay. Yeah, so
Can you
basically,
hear me?
do you know who this dude is, Corey?
That's that old boy from the RNC last night, ain't
Yep. So basically, so just your general thoughts on him giving this speech as a Democrat, denouncing Biden and supporting Trump, and also just your views on Black Republicans and the relationship between and Black people, specifically calling him an Uncle Tom for doing this?
Well, I think Sambo would be the proper term, but right. I think that the brother hit just before me, hit a nail on the head. You jumping from one plantation to another. I think I said last time too. We arguing over, who got the better master and the bigger plantation. Burn both them motherfuckers down. In the words of Killer Mike, burn both them motherfuckers down and go build your own.
Yeah.
I think these cats, they keep. I've never understood the tug of war. If we are so insignificant in America, why the tug of war? If we are such a minority, why the tug of war for our vote so much? Why not just say fuck them?
I agree.
Exactly.
I mean, why not just say fuck
It's a
them?
valid
Let us be. Now,
I think the most entertaining thing about the whole Republican narrative is while they speak every breath, they're literally doing what they claim Democrats are doing.
Correct, except they do it with proper English, though.
That's the only difference. So, I mean, just look at the Republican narrative. I'll talk to a conservative and they'll be like, how when they're about to be racist, Ray, you're pretty smart, which means,
Yes.
Ray, you're pretty smart for one of yours. So why, if I just think if you did your research, keep in mind, this is normally some hillbilly that barely graduated high school, but they're going to say to me, if you just did your research, then you'd probably be a Republican. How is that different than what they claim? Because, the Democrats, they brainwashing you. They don't care about you. They just want your vote. You should vote Republican. I'm like, do you even know my last name, bro? Like,
Right.
I thought I thought you got named after the plantation.
Do you know what's interesting? If you look at the poorest states in the union, they're generally in the South. So if you look at Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, all of those places vote red. Like well, maybe not historically, but definitely since like the 60s and 70s, they've all voted red. So when white people tell me, "Hey man, you should vote Republican, man, get off the Democrat plantation," I'm looking like, okay, so you voted red in Wisconsin, in Nebraska, Iowa, the Dakotas, all those places, and there's hella poor whites. So what are they doing for poor white people that they're just all of a sudden going to start doing for black people? Does that make sense?
Okay, so I got 2 words for that, and that's Southern strategy. That's 2 words. That's an easy one there. That's some old Nixon shit.
That's Nixon. That's Nixon, of course. Yeah.
That's dog whistling politics like a motherfucker right there, buddy.
It's just like you're not gonna hit me with the okie doke. Like they care about poor people on the Republican side because it's hella just redneck poor people in Kentucky not getting shit from Republicans for the past 40 years.
Wait, okay, so on Daniel's points then, how likely do you think or how long do you think it would take, and I'll come to Ray with this, how long do you think it would take for Black people to just create their own party? You know what? Screw freaking the Democrats, screw the Republicans. Let's create our own party. And I think even Daniel even made the point on his tweet, which is that if we control and are funding this party, therefore we can hold that person much more accountable.
Everybody needs to look up
so forth.
Something that happened, I think, in 1968, which with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and look that up. I'm not completely. I can't tell you.
I read about that before.
Right. So I've only read it once, but I remember being Fannie Lou Hamer and those guys in Mississippi, where they tried essentially to create their own part because Mississippi, I think it has the highest percentage of Black people of any state, maybe South Carolina, but Mississippi is pretty much. I think it's 40% Black. So there are a bunch of counties in Mississippi where it's just mostly Black people.
I think another thing you want 40% is this is something that a lot of people don't think about when they think about the presidential primary, but for any special interest groups, because there's a strategy from like some of the independents and some of like the other parties, like the green and the gold. I mean, gold being libertarians, is that they want to get at least a 5%. They want to at least get 5% of the vote, because if you get 5% of the vote, does anybody know what happens when you get 5%? 5% of the popular vote.
Do you get to go to the debates or something, or
you go to the debates? Exactly. You go to the debates, and and the big point about that is, while you may not get elected, the important thing about that is that you can bring talking points to the table, to the grand table of presidency that you want to get pushed across. Because if that candidate talks so let's say you want to talk about something like police, you want to talk like have a real talk about police brutality. You can, if you can get like 5% in said party that's talking about, that wants to bring up that talking point, you only need 5%. You get 5%, they go to the table and they'll talk to like the parties that have more following. I mean, depending on how they take it, it does bring the topic to the table.
So if you research this party here, what they did is they went around and they collected a bunch of black people who could vote, and they challenged the Democratic Party establishment. The party was then used against black people in general, because what they did is they just teamed in with the Democratic Party, who King and them thought they could infiltrate. So it didn't hit its full potential, basically. But this is an idea of what you could do. Is you could just organize black people for an independent black party in places that are majority black, and fund and control those politicians, because politics is all controlled by money. So if you have a black candidate who's funded completely by the Democratic Party, they might have 99% black votes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that black people control them, because they're always going to vote for Democratic interests. So
the other thing as well too is that at the lower levels, which are more directly affect communities, that's where they'll do the most good, because because everybody talks about the executive, everybody talks about congressmen, everybody talks about governors, but the people who really do the heavy lifting, those are the city council people, are the mayors. I mean, pretty much those lobbyists that are at city and county level.
But people don't know this stuff. Like I said, we was out there right before it got real bad. I'm standing there next to now we have 2 black aldermen. We just had a female just recently get elected. But we've only had 1 black alderman for like the last 8-10 years. And this man has been down for the team, been down for the cause his whole time. But he's out there in the streets that night, and because people don't pay attention to this stuff, so someone yells out, yeah, he's an alderman, so he's trying to calm people down. It was actually his district too, so he lives in the district, he's there talking to his people, and then someone yells out, man, he just here to try to tell us, to do what the white people say. Then it just starts getting out of hand. It's like, man, we should stomp this fool right now. He's never done nothing for us. And it's like, he's dedicated his whole life to this thing, man. And so, yes, you need that local control, but we also need, we talk about white moderates a lot. We got a lot of black moderates too. We got a lot of black middle class that's basically like, you know what? I got out of that mud. I don't want to look at that mud. I don't want to talk about that mud. I don't want to think about it. I got my Cliff Huxtable sweater on and I ain't taking this shit off. So we need some people to support the people that stand up. So it's not always a martyrdom to do so. And that's what you're seeing happening right now, because it's a hard fight going out there by yourself, and even your own people you trying to stand up for chucking rocks at you, for real, man.
So this is an interesting one I want to bring in, because just very briefly before we go to our last topic here. So general thoughts on, because I don't think we actually discussed this. So she's now the VP and so forth. She's actually half Indian, half African American, but it is what it is. So this one just around the room, general thoughts on Kamala Harris being Democratic VP. Come first to Corey on this.
I'm sorry, it cut out on me. What was the question topic?
So what are your thoughts on Kamala Harris being the Democratic VP or potential Vice President of the U.S.?
Image-wise, I think it's good. America, despite her technically her genetic makeup, right? I think America views her as Black, and definitely as obviously as a woman of color of some sort, and I think that's another talking head point for the Republican Party. Oh, she's not even Black. How are you going to follow her? It's like, well, you do realize that America has always operated on the one drop rule, and Black folks do the paper bag test still to this day. I think it's good for image. Her background, her body of work. Nah, she had a job to do. I mean, I don't know how good or bad she's going to be. I think it's good for image. That's kind of my take at this point. Admittedly, I need to do a little bit more research on Miss Harris to see where I stand on her. But either way it goes, DNC, RNC, damn that, we need to have a BNC at this point.
So what about you?
But I want to also, before I get out, I want to say that you mentioned about having how long would it take to start our own political party? Again, I think you got a couple choices there. We either take the time and the decades that it's going to take to do that, or we hijack one of the two that's already there, one of the 2 or 3 that's already there.
But that's going to be tricky. I mean, it's going to be tricky to hijack the Republican or the Democrats one, because they are so established. It would be far effective and quicker to create a whole new one rather than infiltrate one where the barriers of entry and the kind of fights you will have will be too much based on how historic both of those parties are. Best in just create a whole new one from scratch. Tony G, thoughts on Kamala Harris?
So I think it's unfortunate that a lot of the hoopla around her is identity politics in general. I think now there's lots of conversations about, of course, her Blackness and whatnot. And of course, people automatically go to, oh, she went to Howard and she's an AKA and all of this. But of course, in my opinion, I think that she grew up as an Indian woman, evidence of her mother raising her primarily in a traditional sense, even her name being Indian as well. And I think it's a very curious thing as well that in the early 2000s, those who were coming from India were actually classified in the census as white. So I would be very interested in seeing what her viewpoint is on that. And at what point did she really realize that she was Black? Because I think if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, I think her parents, her Jamaican father and her Indian mother came in the 1960s, I believe, to get a PhD at a time that most Black people were struggling and fighting and protesting to get equal rights. And here you have 2 immigrants coming in and automatically outdoing anything that MLK Jr. can even think plausible. So I think that she comes from a very different background in general, which is why I think that there's a disassociation from what she's done as far as her just doing her job. I think that if she was grounded in the Black experience in America, then clearly she would have chosen a different path politically. And I think that in terms of judging politicians based on whatever their job is as attorney general and whatnot, there are clear signs of politicians who've done their job and actually fought for the people like a Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren with the credit union, well, not with the credit unions, but what she was able to do with people's like credit scores and legalizing certain things and giving protections to people as far as their credit scores are concerned. So I think that those politicians who actually care about the people, we can actually see, their record, and it stands for what it is, and there's no real argument. And I think that we can't really attest to what she's been able to do for Black people, because primarily she has not worked in favor of Black people. And my last point would be, again, with the whole identity politics, I think that, again, with these simplistic ideas of Blackness, as far as like you being in a Divine Nine organization, or going to an HBCU, I think, again, unless you are rooted in Black politics, I have no concern for you. And I think that a clear sign, again, of a politician who did not play the identity politics role or political role is Herbert Humphreys, who was LBJ's VP, a white man who was in Alpha, but was responsible for the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s and also played a hand in the Fair Housing Act. And I'm sorry, I thought of one more thing. I remember when Kamala Harris did her acceptance speech and she named all of the shoulders that she stood on, but was neglected to speak on Charlotta Baz, who I just recently learned about. She, in 1957, was running as a VP candidate for an independent party, and her running mate actually finished third. And again, this is a woman rooted in Black politics. She had Paul Robeson behind her, W.E.B. Du Bois behind her. And again, I think that we should stop just looking for a Black face, because clearly that does not work all the time, i.e. even with Obama, I know we get the excuse of, oh, he could only do but so much. But again, there are certain people like Anina Turner or Ayanna Pressley who are Black, and you can see through their politics and through their policies that they try to put in place that they are for Black people. And I would just like Kamala Harris to be held accountable for that, rather than just saying, oh, well, she's a Black face or a Black woman.
Very, very well said. Some very good points, man. Sam.
As far as Kamala Harris, I mean, there's a quote from The Fast and the Furious. She's a cop. She's a cop.
You're really quoting the Fast. You're quoting Vin Diesel.
No, that's from Vin. That's from like one of the lesser known actors, but the thing about it though is it just goes by that she's a cop. She's a cop, and what that means is that while yes, there are certain things with identity politics and whatnot that she's going to have to fall in line with. She was a district attorney. She has a lot of history with law enforcement. And she's pretty much been complicit in essentially like basically sending lots of people of color to jail for very small infractions. Basically, my thing about her is I don't know. I just don't feel like she was the best candidate that they could have put across, especially if they're trying to get progressive liberals, if they're trying to get a lot of like, and especially for like the nature of what we're fighting for here, especially as Black people, in terms of Black rights, like, yeah, because one of the cases that she did, one case that you can look up is that there was an opportunity where she was able to let a guy go, basically prove a guy's innocence who was put in jail illegally, and she could have provided the evidence, could have put together the case, but she didn't. But it didn't happen, and yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, that I don't have full trust in her, but we'll see how it works out. I mean, because like people change, and we'll see.
Okay, Daniel.
I think Tony kind of took everything.
Yeah, no.
That was good. That was good, man. But yeah, I think one of the key points that he said is there's Blackness and then there's political Blackness, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't question Kamala Harris's Blackness in that sense. Like, she's for all intent and purpose, she looks Black on the screen right now. I'm sure she's been treated. Obviously, she's AKAs, light skin, all of that, so she gets privilege in some senses. But she's Black. But politically, I wonder how much she is Black. Because for me, like the idea of law school is something that was floated when I graduated from English, and I like one of my, I don't know, I would watch like Law and Order and things like that, and I would be like, if ever I became a lawyer, there's no way I'm ever going to be somebody like a Jack McCoy or somebody like that, who just like your whole idea is to put people in prison. So. And this is just something I have with prosecutors, and maybe it kind of goes to Sam's point about just being a cop, but you go through the whole thing of going through law school and that whole thing, and your idea is, I'm gonna be a prosecutor. I'm gonna work with the state to put Black bodies in prison, rather than be a defense attorney and try to work from the outside. So I do have a problem, generally speaking, with like people who dedicate themselves to putting others in jail, knowing that the system is set up explicitly to put Black people in prison. So that just made me question you off rip. But I think maybe like what Corey said, I don't know her record well enough to say anything further than that. It's just that what she's done does give me a bit of pause of like, how politically black are you really? And that's all I can really say from a place of confidence.
All right, Ray.
So I understand why we're talking about it. I understand it was a question and it's up, but I honestly think that we're giving more respect to something than it deserves. You know, personally, it's honestly not we this group per se, but we the black community. I feel that we're denying ourselves the same thing we're demanding. You know, who are we to say who's black and who's not, or who's gone through the experience and who hasn't? So for me personally, I kind of take it like a businessman. So if I'm negotiating you at a business table and you say, Ray, it's only $1,000, meaning you want me to just give you another $1,000. If you say, Ray, come on, man, it's just $1,000. It's nothing. I'm going to respond to you. You're right. It's nothing. So give it to me. I'm looking at a whole bunch of people saying race shouldn't matter. Great. I agree with you. So only put black people in. Replace the entire government with just black people. Since it don't matter why we even talking about it. Just replace, it doesn't matter. White, black is the same. You don't see no color. You shouldn't even notice the difference. Just maybe different haircuts. So put all black people in since it don't matter, since you don't see no color. People say things they don't really mean. Really what they're saying to you is, I need it to not mean as much to you so I can get what I want. That's usually what someone is saying to me when they say race doesn't matter. So if it doesn't matter, black, fine. Give me black presidents till the day I die. If someone's going to screw me over, at least they look like me. Shoot. Come on. Give me that.
Fuck you, man. That's the truth.
So final topic before we get out of here, man. And I think this was just sort of a...
Before you jump into that, so just so you know, so you guys can have it first. So we got news. It's not hit the national news yet, but we now got crowds of white supremacists.
Oh, God.
Driving. Well, they're not calling them white supremacists, but they're driving to defend the buildings. I was telling you that. The police chief and the mayor. So these are people who are downtown right now, my friends. They're talking about this. The police chief and the mayor, they're having a council meeting right now. Nobody can find the mayor or the police chief. Their phones are off and the city website is down. So,
wait. So why? What building are the supremacists surrounding? wait. Why are you laughing? This is I don't know.
No. I like watching the hamster speed up there, man. Talk yourself through this. If you hear some white dudes are coming to your side of town to defend some buildings, tell me how you feel and go.
That's exactly what that's in Boogaloos and them Proud Boys.
Do you feel like, ooh, now I can sleep easy? Is that the feeling that you have in your heart?
Not if you're black.
I mean, what's this?
They just need to come at those motherfuckers with guns. Fuck them.
Remember crazy because they can't find the mayor. Mayor's not even at the meeting. Mayor's missing. Police chief is missing. And this is when you find out that nobody knows the law. So one of the aldermen's asking, can we get the army in? So they're having to explain posse comitatus to actual elected officials, explaining why someone said this bringing the big red one. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like nobody knows their own country. You know, the citizenship test to get it to become a citizen in America. I'm not sure that half these people could pass that test.
It's actually, it's kind of easy.
I actually just saw it the other day. Because my wife, she's calling it for a couple of days. You know, she's got her residency, so she's ready. Yeah. But actually, I take that back, and I think you should too. It's easy for you.
Well, no. I had to take it.
My point is, it's easy for you. I saw the questions. I stand by my statement. I think if you just walk down the street and ask Americans to take that test,
fair point.
Yeah,
I think one of the questions was name 3 wars that America fought between 1800 and 1900. I do not think you could find, if you picked 50 Americans, they could not name 3 wars that America fought between 1800 and 1900.
So World War II,
No,
Vietnam.
come on, bro.
1800
1800 and 1900.
that's like
Oh my God.
that's like War of 1812,
That's a
American War, and Civil War.
How the heck is anybody supposed to know that?
Bro, it's Civil War, Spanish
about it.
American War,
You know
War of 1812. There you
Yep.
go.
War of
Spanish American War.
What the hell is that?
But you're a history guy, though.
Yeah. You see, no, Daniel, you're cheap. No, Daniel, this does not concern you. This concerns guys like me. What the heck?
Come on, 1812. You're gonna say nobody knows the War of 1812? Even puts the year in there for you to help you out, bro.
But the other probably people that I mean, because and that's the thing, because I think I remember, because I had to do a citizenship test to become a UK citizen, because in the UK it's different. Because shout out to Maggie Thatcher, she basically said, no, if you're born in England, you need to basically spend 5 to 10 years here continuously before you can, and then you have to even take a test. So because I was actually born in London, but I wasn't allowed to be given a British citizenship because she changed the law after I was born. And when I took the test, I say, I know a lot of English dudes probably don't know the answers to these questions. So how the heck are you giving me this flipping test that is actually a fully hard test?
It's the same way in order to like in the 60s, where like you had to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar in order to get able to vote. Like they make it as hard as possible because they don't want you to be.
No, they don't want you. They don't want you in there.
Like how many prime ministers were there in the 1800s? Name 7. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of question is this? But go ahead.
So,
yeah, I've heard,
you know what, let's actually, because rather than good, let's sort of end on Wisconsin for the last 8 minutes and so forth. So, I mean, I think, Corey, you just sort of came in. So, Corey, have you been following the Wisconsin incident with the guy who got shot and so forth?
Yeah, I seen it when it first hit the interwebs, man, and unfortunately I hadn't had an opportunity the last 2 days to sit down and follow any of the updates on the news story. So a lot of the stuff the brother was sharing about what's happening from the ground level, I hadn't heard that yet. Then again, maybe it hadn't made the news. I do know that the young man is, his dad said that he was paralyzed and all that stuff. I do know that.
I mean, see, my thing right now, this just is like escalation, because we saw how things escalated in other cities. So my worry is, how much can things get out of control? Because does Wisconsin have the fortitude, police, organization to withstand potentially like a full-on, call it a battle?
No, you don't got to finish the question. No, they're not built for this life. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So they declared curfew the first night. They didn't have the manpower or the design to do it. That same night, I just said to you, I saw civilians lined up with rifles. I looked in those boys' eyes with those shields and badges. Yeah, that wasn't courage pumping through their hearts. So basically, and you just think about playing a pickup game for money and you just getting your ass whooped, and you just so desperate you just start calling people out the stands. That ain't gonna increase the chance you're gonna win. It's just going to look even worse. You don't know people. You talk about, hey, dude, take point. Man, you bringing in new people to take point, you've already lost. So what's happening right now is it's a demonstration of how you have a whole bunch of Midwest people who think they're big city. Because, you listen to conservative and rural and suburban talk. It's always about how, well, the city's got those problems, but, they're idiots. They're dummies. And actually, one of our elected officials said that because they denied body cameras before. And they said, we don't need body cameras because we don't have those city issues. And if we had issues, we could handle it. And that's what they'd be saying. Oh, yeah, we could handle them if they come here. If those gangbangers come here, we can handle them. Well, guess what? People are making away games now from Milwaukee and Chicago. And yeah, you watching white boys turn colors right now. So turning green and purple, getting sick to their stomachs because they're not built for this life. And so this is the biggest problem, is you shouldn't have to wait for something to happen to prepare for it. Really, what people should be watching happening right now is saying, you know what, that hasn't happened in my city, but I don't want to wait for something to happen to do something. Let's have the conversation up front, because there's only 3 ways you can learn: instruction, example, or experience. Our dumbasses here in Kenosha chose to learn through experience. We saw other cities. We chose not to do anything. We saw other cities trying to better engage it. We chose not. I mean, even the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee, as soon as their new officials came in, they hit this head on as soon as these new guys came in. Kenosha chose to learn through experience, and that's why it's costing. But if you think about your life, experience always costs the most. So that's what you see.
So, so just around the off. So, Tony, how do you think things are going to get resolved in Wisconsin? Do you see things escalating? Do you see Trump tweeting out, "We need to send the army to sort this out"? How do you see stuff happening there, Tony?
I think in true Trump fashion, I'm sure he will sort of.
Oh, he has to. He must.
Right. He will definitely. And of course, I mean, he's going to go along with the rhetoric of the Republican Party in general, bring everybody to arms and rush on down there. But I also think that part of the problem is I think there's like 10 to 15 states that actually engage in this training mechanism with Israel, where they have Israelite or not Israelite or whatever you call them, the citizens of Israel who are police. They come here and they do like this cross training of sorts. And so I do think that this militarization of the police force is just going to increase. I think that incidents like this is just going to continue. And to you guys' point about, people like getting insurance money and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure as the economy still sort of falters, a lot of politicians or white people or business owners are going to take advantage of this sort of thing. And yeah, I don't see it calming down, and I don't think that this will be the last incident. I think this is just going to continue to escalate across the United States because, again, this is just a continuation of American history. This is nothing new, and I don't think that we should treat it as anything new. And I find it appalling that every time something like this happens, we act shocked and amazed, and we pose the same questions over and over. And a lot of times, it's not our politicians that are having to answer to this. It's regular common folk.
Sam,
you ever saw the Judge Dredd movies?
Of course, yeah.
You ever thought about that in real life?
I doubt. Well,
that's probably what the fuck's gonna happen in the next 10 years. I can see that. I can see that's the direction that we're probably gonna go. It sounds crappy, but it's like to the point where our police are so militarized. I mean, it depends, but also it depends at the same point who remains in charge and what narrative gets pushed, because some of the narratives that are getting pushed are going to go towards the direction of something of a Judge Dredd style way where where instead of getting what we want, it's going to be more of the case where you're basically giving cops basically more rights, more money, and just focusing on just enforcing law and order rather than listening to people.
Oh yeah, so basically greater authority.
Yeah. And that's, if it gets to that level, then I really feel bad. I really weep for my country.
Damn. Daniel?
What's the question?
So basically, what do you think is going to happen with Wisconsin? Do you see an escalation of events?
I wouldn't want to speculate, but who knows? That's what I got, and I don't know.
Okay. Ray, so Ray, so God's feelings, how do you think things will go, judging from what you're saying? Do you think things could get as bad as you saw them get, like in Ferguson, or where George Floyd was, where it really is like, okay, this is places burning, things going crazy, and as you said,
we had 5 buildings burned down to the ground yesterday. We had 5 buildings burned down to the ground yesterday, bro.
Oh shit.
So we're there.
He said, "Oh shit."
Yeah. The parole office, couple gas stations, couple residentials. I don't know if you. Yeah, I'd go through the photos, but I don't mean like little shacks on fire. So,
yo, Ray, can I ask a question? Like, is there any discernible level of organization with the protesters, Or is it just like separate groups have their own thing, then this group has another, that group has its own thing?
Is it just disorganized?
So, short answer, no. So here's what happened. You got the young kids so you got, let's call old heads like me, okay? I'm not the oldest crew. You got your old civil rights cats. But, and I'm looking at them like, man, y'all dinosaurs. Go take a nap, But these young cats, they looking at guys like me and they're like, man, shut up, old man. Had you fixed this when you were our age, we wouldn't have to do this. That's how they're talking to me.
Wow.
So, I can't even, so like you'd be trying to like mentor and coach them. And I'd be like, hey, hey, maybe you might want to kind of chill out and help with this. And, they'll sit there and they'll listen to you. And then 3 hours later, you see them on Facebook, burn it all down. I'm like, come on now, so you just got these different leaders, and the younger kids, they're about, let's get out in the streets and stay out in the streets. I'm kind of like, man, I need my whiskey by 10. So if we can wrap this up, and it's, so there is no organization, but I hesitate to say that because I'm not sure there should be. I don't think Black people owe each other picking one man or woman to represent them. I look at the civil rights era and we did that, and look what happened. They all got killed. So I'm thinking it might actually be better, even though I don't like the style or tactics of half of them. Too many targets. You go at any of us, you don't stop nothing. I was giving a Black Lives Matter speech Saturday in Waukesha. Had you shot me, would have meant nothing. It keeps going. I'm one faction. I would say there's about 4 or 5 big factions here in Kenosha running. There is no one of us that controls things. Maybe people listen to me in a certain moment. So yeah, I was tapped to speak this morning for a New York Times or ABC and CNN interview. They had it planned this morning so I got the call to speak on that one. I ended up not doing it for other reasons, but maybe the next one, there's a certain other kind of news station that likes the loud, rowdy kids. They're going to call them. They don't want to see me coming in there in a tie, talking all educated. They want to hear these kids yelling, holding a bottle, talking about, we're going to burn it all down. So I say there is leadership, but not the way that the outside world thinks Black people should do it. The world always wants Black people to do things differently than how everyone else did it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was George Washington, but you had a lot of separate factions doing their own damn thing in the Revolutionary War. It was just wherever they dressed differently, you couldn't stop it. It was a people's war. It seems like when it comes to Black people, they always want us to get to the same place in a different way than how they got there. This country was built on fire and flames. So why are you telling Black people that fire and flames is uncouth? It's improper. This entire country was built on fire and flames. Mm-hmm. So I see people like me saying maybe we could be innovators and do it a new way. But no, I'm not going to tell these young cats that you can't utilize the things that every other group before you that got justice utilized. I'm not going to tell them that.
So I think when I said organization, maybe leadership wasn't the one, but I was just like, is there anybody saying, and maybe people won't listen, and maybe that's you. It's like, if you're going to burn something down, burn this, like, don't burn down the local stuff. Why don't you go burn down a McDonald's or a CVS or some, like, not the mom and pop stores? Like, is there organization in that sense? Or is it just like, yo, the Wendy's is there, let's take it out? Because for me, that's disorganization.
I'll tell you this. The groups that I see actually burning things down, I don't see any representation of any of the local groups. So they might be BLM, but they might be BLM playing away games. Okay. Let's go burn their stuff down, in the name of justice. But no, I'm not seeing none of the local groups, even under the cover, taking credit for any of this. I mean, think about that. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, and I burned my neighbor's house down for the cause, bro.
Yeah, the other thing too is also, like, when you look at it, like, what are they? Because I look at it kind of like but yeah, what are they actually targeting? Because it's like, okay, some places I understand, police stations, fucking correctional facilities, some of the bigger businesses like corporations and shit. But some of these small shops, I mean, like, bro.
Yeah, that like
but
I'm
it's
cool with fire
Ray
being
said.
a message, but just let it be the right message.
No. But as Ray said, a lot of these people are young, and when you're young and so forth, you have young people who are just riding on emotion, and you have young people who are just co-opting this stuff, thinking it's cool. Because I remember when I went to the BLM march in London like months ago, and there were a lot of white kids, and I could just tell that these white kids were just, hey man, it's cool, hey man, let's just get on, blah blah blah. So once you have those youths in there, they're not really thinking about, okay, what particular buildings. They're just like, it's a riot, yeah, whoa, burn. So once you have that, they're just like, right, yeah, baby, let's just burn everything down.
Right.
So,
because I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. If I was in it, let's say there was this Black Lives Matter Common Council, and some cats are in there talking about, hey, we're here to decide which buildings to burn down. My vote's gonna be the one we in. Burn that one down, because that's stupid.
wait, which one?
I'm saying, like, if that is your leadership saying that, that's not leadership. You're not doing anything special, and that's really what you're saying. You know, as officers in the Army, we were managers of violence. We were a lot of things, but we were managers of violence. You having a whole bunch of young kids all hyped up, and because you can't control them, you direct them towards a building. That's not leadership. That's you playing the crowd. And that's really all you're seeing right now. People playing the crowd. Opportunist, opportunist. That's why, because if they was really gangsters, we'd be having rioting during the day. So far, 100% of our rioting. So maybe that's why it's not as bad as Ferguson. I think Ferguson was round the clock, wasn't it? I don't know if anyone remembers. I think Ferguson was round the clock, though. Ours don't start till the sun go down. So that's something to tell you right there. It's opportunist. It's cover a night. They know there's not enough cops, and they know these cops aren't trained. So even when they had 100 SWAT out yesterday, they had 100 SWAT in one part of town. So guess what they did? They spread out across town and started burning stuff. So it's like they're not built for this.
Okay, so let's just sort of round it off, man. But look, man, thank you everyone for being part of this. Ray, stay safe, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask the brother from Wisconsin a question right quick before we get out of here. The brother from Wisconsin up there.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, man, how about that? Excuse me. What's the scoop on that white cop that got hit upside his head with a brick the other night?
I was actually out there that night, so
shit out of here with that brick, boy.
Because they was tossing stuff, but again, even the way they was tossing stuff, they could have hit me just as much as a cop.
Hey, dude, try to get out the way, and then nope, wow.
Yep, he caught it, but it gets served back because, and that's what you're seeing happen. Like you'll be standing there, like not doing nothing crazy. Cat next to you will do something crazy, and then cops come with those pepper balls, and let's just say they are generous with those shots, so they're not being stingy. So everyone around you gets it. So it's just like,
hey, that's real talk. That happened to me. That happened to me in NYC in 2014. I happened to get caught up there for the. It was the night they announced the Mike Brown verdict, and I was in Times Square being old regular country ass tourist and shit. Right, I'm by myself, and little I know, I was in the middle of a march for Eric Garner, which all that stuff, was happening all at the same time. I think that was the night of or the night after they doused de Blasio with fake blood at the park or whatever it was. And that weekend, that was crazy, man. I mean, hell, my connecting flight was the same night in Cleveland, the night that Tamir Rice got shot. So, I mean, all that stuff happened all within 3 days. But anyway, what's to your point about, being next to somebody and something popping off? You ain't never lied, brother. I was there firsthand on that Times Square, man.
Yeah, so you will see how it goes tonight, because that's basically what happened. I guess everybody goes to sleep, wakes up at noon, starts getting all set up again for the day, and like I said, let's see what pops off tonight. How crazy!
Wait till white America get a hold of that little video clip where that white cop get hit in the back of his head. He out there dressed like a damn meter maid. Boy, you got fires and shit. You are not built for this shit.
Hey, I'll give these white kids something, man. They dress up for riots.
They
Like
ain't bad.
one kid, like he like broke into his mama's closet, had her kitchen apron and everything on. So they be having the kitchen gloves so they can pick up the tear gas cans. Man, they be reminding me of Afghanistan so much. Because the SWAT team go in there, thousands of dollars of gear on, tear gas, pop, pop, pop. These cats come up there with a kitchen glove, toss the shit right back. I'm like, you know what? That's pretty funny. I just got to be real. That was pretty funny.
All right, so
I got the dip, man. I got to hit this meeting, but a talking point for the next meeting, though, is white fear more important to America than black sorrow / outrage?
Absolutely.
Talking point.
That's a great talking point.
I'll jot that down. So what's it? So you say is white fear? Say
Is
again.
white fear more important to America than black sorrow and outrage?
'Cause that's what we just saw happen here. Man got killed, everybody calm. Buildings go up, now people grabbing weapons. Why didn't you grab those weapons when you found out a man got killed? Why didn't you say, hey, y'all are murdering people? We can't have that. Now they running around talking about, what? You burnt that insured building? We can't have that.
That insured
And
building.
actually, what I'm talking about, there's a private message I keep getting. Someone just sent me like, hey, Ray, if you could, donate to this group. I'm like, the white side of town's insured, bro. They don't need my money.
Okay, cool. Good luck today, man.
Okay, so wait, so Mo just says, stay safe for real. Stay safe, Ray. So, Ray, and look, Ray, if it gets bad, we already know that you're pretty much Rambo in your private life. So just
but I'm not bulletproof. Like I said, I left the other night once it got silly. So you ain't gonna see no video of me on top of a burning car talking about Rambo. Ain't happening, bro. With my tie around my head and everything.
Like this ain't GTA. This is real life, man. So all right, guys. We'll see you guys next week, next Tuesday with some cool talks, man. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday, guys. Peace out. Thanks, guys.